Hello, all. My name is Ramkrishna Garen. I'm here to introduce my supply chain simulation app, that is ResilienceXAI. So this app is basically to test the supply chain resilience, and it is powered by the world's first supply chain model, and it is wrapped on the Gemini model, Gemini 3.5. So I'm here to introduce three modes in my app, which is play mode, pro mode, and expert mode. In the play mode, it helps the K-12 students, any student who is in the 10th or below grade of his school. And then pro mode is for somebody who is a teacher or a lecturer or who is in the academic space, graduate level or undergrad level. And expert mode is for executive range people who are supply chain practitioners. So we want to teach the world the science of resilience by scenario modeling and mitigative playbooks and decision analytics. So let's look into the expert mode real quick. So you might be wondering what happens when a event in the world happens, such as chip shortages or you can name anything like a Venezuela oil issue or Ukraine to Russia war and things like that. So these typically we call as disruptions, and I built this app in the expert mode where I can simulate the disruptions in less than 30 seconds. So after I launch the war room, this war room gives me a wire, which is a set of the important news that is happening in the world. Namely, you can think of something like a disruption in the Red Sea or any world events like wars, Suez Canal blockade, and things like natural calamities. All of these are part of the global wire. So as you can see, we can see the alert signals. These are the top five disruptions that are happening in today's world, and I will choose the EU retaliation plans for Trump trade tariffs. And once I click it and I choose the a target intelligence sector as food and agriculture, so once I click it, I would understand what could be the downstream impact and what could be the strategic outcomes of this decision. And then I see my command panel, which is again, as you can see, it is less than 30 seconds. And you can see the impacted regions as mostly France for 92%. And then there are following other countries, which are from Rotterdam, Italy, and Germany. And this also tells me a holistic estimate of my KPIs, which is the lead time and the OTIF variance. I can also look into the impacts of how these impacts will help the tier 1 and tier 2 suppliers. And you can see that there is expected major congestion between US and EU gateway ports, especially because of these new tariffs coming along the way. And then once you look into the recommendation, there is a three prong recommendation that we assessed, which is immediate horizon and near term and structural horizon. For immediate horizon, we are telling that for procurement we need a tactical inventory, and then for compliance and code and audit, because of the new tariff changes, it gets into confusion. And for the near term horizon, we have a original sourcing and tariff currency and how we can hedge that. And then the last one is again how we can use for a regeneration of a food processing and making sure that any cross-border tariff exposure cannot limit the food processing like entity in that. So as you can see, this gives a active command playbook where you can actually understand what you can do immediately, and also you can also play in the structured horizon level as well. And when we look into the exposure, which is the fourth prong, we also can understand how each of the graphic node on a country is exposed. Let's say you take France, it is at 92% risk because of its high value in dairy and wine exports, which means France is pretty much high into both of these, which is dairy and wine exports. Thus, that's a huge impact because of this. And when, of course, it is not limited to just France by itself, but we can also see that Germany is also impacted at 75% risk and we can also look into the executive mitigative action advice, which is this one, and then understand a command playbook by copying all the actions. And it is not just limited to the expert mode alone. We also have a pro mode wherein this simulation can be taught in the schools and colleges. And as you can see in the build a scenario application, I can choose the industry and sector, and I choose food and agriculture with a trade route of China to EU. And I have different modes as well. I can choose from each of that. Now I choose China to EU, and then I can also simulate my network shocks. I'm choosing a pandemic spike and a regional flood and a factory fire, and I can also adjust my levers, so which is from low, medium, high, and then I run a simulation. So what it basically does is it simulates what happens in each of the node that is in the supply chain, which is from supplier to the customer. And as you can see, the transit has is seeing some disruption here, and also the distribution. It is because of the disruptions that we have included in the simulation. And then we are looking into five KPIs, namely that is your lead time and the cost based analysis. And then once I initiate the executive brief, it is going to give me a brief with the intelligent console. And I can also this can also be used into the academic synthesis as well. And I initialize the teaching model. It can give the quizzes and everything that is linked to that academic section, wherein the lecturers can use it to start conducting the quizzes in their day-to-day classes, and kind of create the interest in the simulating environment. And the last one is the play mode. It is meant for the kids to understand how the supply chain works. It is a gamified adventure where the kids can understand the disruptions and how it impacts the world. And as you pretty much know, kids love pizza, and you also have a different modes that you can choose to pick a mission. And then you can pick a route, which is from China to the four other routes we have just discussed, and you can add challenges. I'm just putting a traffic jam challenge here as well, and then I start a mission. So it basically initiates a simulatory environment, and then it prompts the kid to execute a countermeasure. So once that's done, it will give a synchronizing and a debrief results. And once I click the debrief results, the kid can get something like a takeaway as comics. I know we all know that kids love the comic, so they will get a anime based mission summary in the comic here, to understand how the mission summary is looking like, so that they can basically understand how the simulation is going on. So this concludes much in detail about our app, which is supply chain resilience. And then currently we are supporting 10 plus global sectors. And To understand more, we also have supply chain Genie. If you ask any question, it is powered by Gemini AI chatbot. And if you ask any questions, it's going to answer you, which is relevant to the app and things like that. And we have a simulation accuracy about 98%, and we are available on LinkedIn and YouTube. So if you want to get in touch, you can use our general inquiry email, or maybe use this one to send a message. Thank you. I look forward for your input on this. If you have any questions, please reach out to us.